Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. It's your favorite part-time YouTuber Crow, and this debate with Charlie, Moist Critical, and Sneeko. If you see what's on my screen right now, you would believe that this video is about how Sneeko, got his ass handed to him, and Charlie just demolished him. It actually goes really poorly for Moist Critical. It goes really bad for him. And after the debate, he basically freaks out and ends his stream. So I'm gonna play the two clips people are circulating, and I think the reason why Charlie did so poorly here is, one, he's not a debater. Okay, most people are not debaters. Most people are not prepared to engage in the Socratic method and all that other garbage. But Charlie is just not one of those people. And also, I think he went into this under the belief that he was going to manhandle Sneeko like he did about a year ago. But, Sneeko actually came in prepared to have this debate, and Charlie just seemed woefully unprepared, which leads to a lot of inconsistencies in his statements. Now, I'm going to play the clip from Sneeko, and I think we can all agree that marrying a 15-year-old as a 21-year-old is wrong. That would make you a pedophile. Like, we're all in agreement on that one, except for Sneeko, okay? And I get the arguments that he makes about age of consent laws. I personally, my belief, it should just be 18 across the board. Other countries are going to do their own thing. That's their societies, their cultures. Talking about like Europe in 16 and everything. But here in the United States, I think we have like a firm line on it being 18. But at the exact same time, I also acknowledge we have many states over here where it's 16 and 17. And I think that maybe what we need is like a strict federal law at 18 and just hold the line there.
I'm talking about your personal beliefs. Do you think someone in their 20s should be able to marry a 15 or 16-year-old?
To someone in their 20s should be, I mean, I personally wouldn't do it. I don't know many people who would do it. The maturity for people in the teenagers in the West is getting much worse, but there are...
We're talking globally. Let's just talk globally. Like, do you think it is okay for, I'm not talking about just you specifically anymore, anyone. Do you think it's okay for anyone in their 20s, an adult, to marry a 15 or 16-year-old?
A 21-year-old, if there was a marriage where the father consented and the daughter consented, and it was both good on both families and they wanted to do it, why am I going to get involved? Why should we get the government involved?
Well,
why would I tell them if everybody's consenting, if everybody's okay with it, if the parents are okay with it, if nobody's being harmed, if it's going to be okay, if they're both abiding by the rules and they're not hurting each other, why not?
But they're still, like, they're at best a sophomore in high school. They can't consent to something like that. Like, do you...
Now, I listened to the longer clip of this, and Charlie could have bodied Sneeko here pretty easily, because Sneeko acknowledges that, here in the United States, maturity is getting worse, right? So you would make the argument that, one, we have science now, we've been able to get into the levels of like psychology that we didn't have hundreds of years ago, and we know that these kids are not developed enough to engage in these types of relationships. Like, they do not understand that, what marriage is. They do not understand that commitment. They cannot. They are far too young for it. Like, that's the direction I would have gone in if I were Charlie. But here's the problem. Charlie's going to make his own unhinged argument here when it relates to gender surgery for minors. And that's kind of where I think even Charlie realized that he's being morally inconsistent, but he sort of has to, because the argument then becomes, if you're not okay with that, then you're a transphobe. And Charlie is a large YouTuber who probably doesn't want the backlash of that community.
Do you believe that somebody can go through hormone therapy? Can they change their gender if they're a child?
I think that's totally fine as long as everyone is consenting, as you agree with.
Okay, so as long as everyone...
If your parents are okay with it and you are okay with it, I think that's totally a familial decision to make. Yeah.
Okay, so a child can cut their penis off and take hormone blockers and change their biology forever, but they can't get married?
Oh, that's a decision that now extends beyond the family, because now you're bringing in a different party. So if you have someone that's your age coming in saying, I want to marry that child, I don't think that can happen under any circumstance.
So,
no.
But it's still a personal decision. You're still deciding.
Because there's
take the other party out of the equation.
It's
a personal decision. If I'm 16 and I personally want to marry this girl, She's beautiful. She's 21 years old. Her family wants to do it. My family wants to do it. You're saying I can't do that. We're both consenting. I'm ready to go. I'm physically mature, but I'm not allowed to marry because Moy says that woman's a pedophile. But if then the next day I leave it, I'm depressed, I want to cut my penis off, I can go right into the clinic, snip it off, and start taking HRT like Chris Tyson. That's a society that makes sense to you?
It is. I believe everyone has I believe everyone has the right to do with their body what they want to do.
Oh. Yeah, so I mean, like, this is the moment when Charlie just shot himself in the foot, because the two positions you cannot hold at the same time, right? I mean, personally, I understand the argument he's going for, where he goes, well, there's another party involved in the other situation. Well, what about a kid who has been talked to by a 20-year-old that's trans, and they, tell them, oh, if you do this, it will, make you feel better, right? The reason why you are unhappy, the reason why you are depressed is because, you're in the wrong body. If you transition, that goes away. I mean, at that point, you have another party that's convincing the kid to do this stuff. And that does happen. I mean, I've seen people do it, right? So I mean, even then, I get Sneako's argument, and when he says specifically 16-year-olds, he's probably referring to like the Middle East, where you have those marriages take place all the time. But also, I'm going to pull something up for you guys, and I want to talk to you about this person really brief. So this is an individual known as Chloe Cole. I was going to bring up the LA Times article, but it's behind a paywall. Chloe Cole is somebody who I believe at 15 years old was, conditioned to believe that they were actually trans and that they were born in the wrong body. Her parents were told that if they do not go along with that transition, she would unalive herself. And so the parents went along with it. She wasn't told any of the long-term detriments to transition. Chopped off her breast, ruined her body. She can never have children again. I mean, they flat out lied to her and said a lot of this stuff would be reversible, and it turns out it absolutely was not. So, I look at the stuff that happened with her, and she's come out with her story, and it's turned into, attacks on her character. Now, the reason why she's detransitioned is so that she could become a popular right-wing icon, which is insane. She cut off her breast. I mean, you don't do that. Like, I guess somebody maybe would have done that to make money, but they're going with these unhinged attacks on her character to shut her up. So for Charlie to make these arguments that, oh, well, it's a kid, and as long as everybody consents. Well, what about when that consent is manufactured under the threat that your child will unalive themselves, even when it's not true? I don't think Charlie is capable of having these conversations because A, they're very difficult, and B, he's a large YouTuber, and the trans people and their allies online will crucify him, and he doesn't want to take that heat. But I put it in the exact same category, right? Like, I think what was done to Chloe is the type of mental trauma and physical damage that you would have if a kid was actually like groomed and abused by an adult. And maybe that sounds wrong, but when you listen to her story, it's horrific. They told her parents she would unalive herself if they didn't go along with it. And these pharmaceutical industries, they treat these kids like bottomless walking piggy bank, because it's been revealed more times than I can count that many of these people talk about the financial benefits to transitioning children because it is a lifetime of medication and therapy. Now, I appreciate memology. Like, my position is that children should not marry, period, okay, until they are 18. And I do think that we need to change all age of consent laws in the United States to 18. I wish that was the way over the rest of the world, but at the same time, I understand that I just live in the US. I can't control what Europe does. But memology's right. They're both fucking retarded for this take, right? And Moist Critical saying that he believes children should be able to transition. Either both are okay or neither is okay. And I'm in the camp of neither being okay. Now, again, based on these arguments on both sides, like Moist Critical, he understands how badly he screwed this one up, okay? Because Sneako's argument on marrying, like you could absolutely body and demolish that one, but not when you're also going to make the argument that a child can consent to have their penis chopped off.
You can get therapy. You can go through the process of making that decision. I thought that's what it was. I thought he was just speaking in hyperbole with the dick cutting off shit. I thought that's what we were talking about. And then if you decide that's the path you want to take, it is your body. You can do that. You can make that decision once you become of age to make a decision like that. I just don't understand how it got so muddled. Half of the fucking conversation was hyperbole, and apparently that one was literal. Or it's a very malicious attack on what I'm trying to say or misunderstanding. I don't know. But I think I'm just going to call it there. All right. Take it easy. Have a good night. See ya.
Like, I get what Charlie is trying to say here, but at the end of the day, it's on Charlie, right? One, his position is inconsistent. It is morally inconsistent. Yes, I think what Sneeko is arguing is also disgusting, right? But what Charlie argued is on that exact same level. And now we see that the European nations that really started a lot of this stuff of like the puberty blockers for kids and everything, they pulled away from that now. They're acknowledging that the mental trauma that they are inflicting on these kids with these treatments, it was in no way a benefit to them, and it was an actual detrimental harm. And we're starting to see more and more pushback in the United States. And well, yes, I understand the argument, oh, it's all 5/10 vote. You do that, okay? You do that. But then when we see like actual detransitioners come out, they wind up being attacked and accused of being like morally deviant and just trying to benefit themselves. And I'm like, this is a girl who chopped off her breast and may never have children again. What, you think she did that to herself and then detransitioned so that she could make a bunch of money? Like, the hell is wrong with you people? Like, I've got to say though, it seems like a lot of people acknowledge that what Charlie argued here was really screwed up and wrong, and I appreciate that. I think more of the focus should be on Sneeko's argument, okay? But at the exact same time, we need a serious discussion here in the United States. And I'm sorry, but maybe we need to remove everyone who just wants to scream transphobe, 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 because they're contributing less than nothing to the conversation. They're making it so divisive, toxic, and stupid that you actually want to just slap them. And I mean, figuratively in Minecraft, of course. I'm just saying, like, we can't have this conversation because every single time it gets brought up, you're a transphobe or you're a grifter or yada, yada, yada. When they point to medical experts, we can point to the entire European situation where they're getting rid of it, and that's where it started because they're acknowledging the mental trauma it's inflicting on these kids. So yeah, like I understand Charlie going, oh, I thought we were just arguing hyperboles. Shut the fuck up. Like, Sneeko, his argument's disgusting, but it wasn't a hyperbole. He's actually probably referencing the majority of Middle Eastern nations because I watched part of this debate and he opened up talking about how his morality was based in Islamic law. And if you go through like Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, Saudi Arabia, it would probably shock Charlie and get him to freak the fuck out. But it's a legitimate problem. It's not something that people here in the West really understand how it works in other countries and other nations. Sneeko was using that argument. I think it's a little unhinged. Right? I think it's deranged. I think it is wrong. And I think even Sneeko acknowledges people in the West are not mature enough to consent to this stuff. But at the exact same time, I think Charlie understands, hey, yeah, 15-year-olds and 16-year-olds should not be able to chop off their penis, even if they consent to it. And he just, at the same time, he can't say that because it would put his career at jeopardy. But that's the problem. Sometimes the norm is wrong. Sometimes what everybody else is arguing for, what the safe position is, sometimes that is just inherently wrong. And sometimes you actually need to take a stand and need to be willing to risk what you have built because it's the right thing to do. But I don't think Charlie is capable of going in that direction. And obviously, I don't think Sneeko is either. I think both their positions are screwed up and wrong and morally inconsistent with each other. But here we are. Charlie just gave a massive W to Sneeko. Anyways, guys, you tell me what you think in the comments. I know this position isn't going to be popular with everybody. I just don't care. Morally speaking, children are not prepared to make these types of decisions for themselves. And I don't care if you got the parents to consent, because I've heard story after story after story after story after story, and they won't even deny it, that they threaten the unaliving of children to get their way.